Hello, Diegwit, salut, annyeonghaseyo. This is Ricky from rikilikemagic, and Shibi says hi. I actually missed him so much. So, welcome back to me, and welcome back to you, to my channel. First and foremost, let's talk about how I wanted 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2017, and by New Year's Eve I had 2,000 subscribers, and as I make this video I have 8,913 subscribers. That is mental. That is mental. I really want to thank everyone for their support and lovely messages. It's just amazing. Really thankful, and I can't believe that. I really can't believe it. I just can't believe it. So I hope you enjoy the content that I'm back making now. So this vlog, it's probably going to be a two-parter because it was just going to be tips and things about my time in Korea, and then when I got to writing all the stuff, there's a lot there, so I think I'm going to be able to make two. And instead of just gushing about Korea, I wanted to kind of make it some sort of structure. So I chose the structure of tips, and then I can hopefully insert a couple of my own stories and things about the tips that I'm going to give about my trip. Also, on top of that, you don't want to be staring at my face for like minutes upon minutes upon minutes. So I have footage of my time there, and I would rather that be the main images that you see. So I'll try and make the images make sense to what I'm talking about, but then I could just throw in like random bubbling stews or things like that as well. So this is the first time I've ever done this, so I pray patience, please, and hopefully I can make something that makes a little bit of sense. Okay, cool, let's get started. So, just first and foremost, Seoul is incredible. It's just amazing. I didn't have a culture shock like I thought I would. I really didn't. It felt extremely familiar and also otherworldly, as if, like, where am I? I don't want to kid myself. I think I've consumed so much pop Asian culture throughout my entire life that I think stepping off the plane I was like, this is where all of that stuff comes from, and I feel quite familiar about that. But also it's just, if you're ready for an adventure, if you're ready and open-hearted and open-minded, it's... Okay, so let's get started. First and foremost, I'd like to give you the context of the type of traveler that I am. I'm kind of a middle of the road kind of traveler. So I am not extremely cheap. I can't handle the extremely cheap, like living off a backpack, hostel, going here, going there, hostel type of traveler. I'm just not hardy enough, and I'm just not cool enough, to be perfectly honest. But I am also, let's just keep it cheap and cheerful, not into the splurging and the spending masses and masses of money. I also don't like doing very touristy things, especially because I was in Seoul for a month. I didn't want to do the most touristy things and kind of see only a tourist's perspective. I wanted to, as much as is humanly possible in the superficial time that I have, I wanted to experience Seoul a little bit more deeply if I could. I also just like feeling a city out and feeling a place out, so I just like walking and like wandering and seeing things. So I wanted to give that context, because if you're a completely different type of tourist or traveler than me, this may not be the video for you, but I'll hopefully give some tips, very practical things anyway, for anyone that visits the country. Tip number 1. We have where I stayed and how I got there and how it made my time so much easier over there. I used a website called workaway.info, and this time I will actually put it in the description box. Workaway.info is a website that you pay €30 a year for. You pay for your own flights and usually your own food when you're over there, but your accommodation is free if you work for the people that you end up staying with. So you get free accommodation, usually with like locals and people who will show you around and things like that. You can get like families in the south of France or a hostel in Peru. What I did was I looked for hostels and guest house and bed and breakfast and things in Seoul. But Seoul was extremely competitive, and I started writing to people about 6 months in advance and still was getting a lot of no's at first. But I found a guest house called Golden Pond Guest House, and they were new to Workaway, and they liked my enthusiasm, so then chose me when I was like, please take me, because I was freaking out that I had nowhere to stay, even if it was 5 months in advance. Also, the context of me as a person is I need to be prepared, so I prepared for this trip like for about 6 months, and financially for about a year and a half. So I wanted to know I had somewhere safe to be. The Golden Pond Guest House didn't have many reviews on Workaway, but my manager was so contactable. She wrote back to every single one of my messages. She was amazing, so that made me feel really, really secure, and she was already telling me things that I could do when I got over there. So I would really recommend workaway.info. Gold Pond Guest House, like, let's take a moment. They're a wonderful guest house with wonderful staff and people, and my time was amplified greatly by being there. So thank you guys, thank you so much. I still get pangs. I get pangs, which is rare for me. Like, usually I'm happy to come back to Ireland, but all of the pangs, all of the feelings. So yeah, in that guest house I would work either between 3 to 5 hours a day, and then have all of the free time in the world to do whatever I like. They're extremely flexible, so if you tell them you want to go somewhere, if you want to do something, they really work around you, so that's amazing. It was really, really helpful, and I was happy to work because the work is very, very doable. What I would say, what seems to be a hard thing for getting work in Seoul anyway, from my experience, is a lot of them were asking for a month minimum, like not even a month. They wanted you, some people were like 2 months minimum. They needed you to be in Seoul for 2 months minimum. So I thought that was asking a lot. So I was very, very lucky that Golden Pond took people for a month. So this would be helpful for people who are hoping to go for an extended period of time. But anyway, check out Workaway, you never know. If not, I'm sure there are great Airbnbs and things like that. That's not the route that I went down. Tip number 2, SIM cards and data on your phone. I wasn't going to get any of that. I was just going to work by Wi-Fi, and in fairness, there is Wi-Fi everywhere in Seoul, like everywhere, and their signal and reception is amazing. Like, it did not drop the entire month, no matter where I went. It was just full everywhere. It was like the land of Wi-Fi. But just in case, I just took advice from a friend to go get data, and it's actually very, very easy to do, because in the airport, in Incheon airport, like, I forget the name of the company. I went with LTE. That was the SIM card and the company that I went, and the network that I went with. But I just came out of my arrivals gate. There were these people selling SIM cards there, and it was pink. There was a lot of pink logos. Here it clearly said in English, you can get a 30-day SIM card and data for really reasonable. I think I paid 70,000 won, which is €60 for the month, and I was very, very happy to pay that. It was so helpful. I would really recommend if you're there for 30 days or more. And you can get that at the airport, so then you hop out and you have Google Maps and you have everything that you need, and you're not going to be a stranded person, and you can get and talk to whoever you need to, or if you just want to be like, Mom, I'm there, la la la. Tip number 3, if you go in January or winter time, it is freaking cold. It is cold. It is so cold. Like, I would recommend you getting enough stuff in your home country before you go, which is what I did. That's what I did. I went into a local outdoor shop and just went, I am going where it is -20, dress me, and bought an entire outfit. Those clothes completely saved me in Seoul, and I would really recommend, if you're going in the winter, get warm clothes. Not if you're from a country like me, Ireland, warm clothes, it's not the same. So yes, it is cold, and dress accordingly, please and thank you. Tip number 3, I just thought this was a really nice thing to let people know, because I didn't realize it was a possibility, and I was so delighted I found this out, and I really wanted to share with people, because I only know about this because of BTS, because BTS are lovely and they talk about social issues. And then suddenly I was in this part of Seoul, and there was an opportunity to sign a petition for the Seoul ferry tragedy. It's near and around and in the Gwanghwamun Square, that area, also near a statue of one of their kings. They have these stalls and tents still full of information of what happened, the children that they haven't found yet and the children that they have, and it's a whole tribute. It was really, really shocking and hard to be around. There was a place where you could sign a petition. The woman started talking to me straight away in English and said that foreigners can actually sign this petition as well, and the petition is to demand more information and pretty much like an inquest from the government on what actually happened, and being as honest and as clear with the public as possible, because that's not what they're doing. So I was delighted to sign. I couldn't believe I could. So I really recommend that if it's possible. I was so happy that a foreigner could help a little bit, and then I got a lovely keyring as well of the yellow ribbon. So yeah, I recommend that. Tip number 4. Tip number 5, I would recommend you learn Korean, and not Korean that's just hello and thank you. I mean, I have very little Korean, like very little, but the fact that I even tried and had my tiny sentences and had my string of phrases and asked what this word meant and asked how do you say that, it completely changed my experience of Seoul and connecting with Korean people versus the other foreigners I would speak to about their time in Korea. My experience of Seoul and Korea and Korean people, they are the most welcoming, warm, incredible humans collectively I have ever met. I have never experienced such kindness and generosity of spirit of a large number of people. But I heard in conversation with other foreigners who were there much shorter time than me, like 2 or 3 days. So of course I didn't think about learning the basics of the language because you're just passing through. They had quite a different view of Korean people and thought they were cold and rude to some extent, and I just couldn't understand where they were coming from because that was not my experience whatsoever. So I was kind of racking my brain of what the difference was, and the kind of main difference was I spoke the language a tiny bit and I tried really hard. I smiled a lot. I really, really tried to connect. I have observed as well that they are a little all shut down, and from a Western perspective that comes across as cold, but it's not cold and it's not rude. It's just extremely shy. I'm not a shy person, but it's not even Western shy. It's like different level of shy. But because I'm not a shy person and I was so delighted to be there, I think learning the language and trying your hardest, like just making the effort. I've chosen to attribute it to the fact that I was learning the language because that was the main difference that I saw between me and the other foreign people that I was talking to. I could be wrong, but I was praised a lot for even trying to speak. That's my 2 cents on the matter, but really take it with a pinch of salt. You know, everyone's personality is different, so be kind and happy to be there and curious about their culture. That's what I was, and then I had an amazing time. So to help with that, I will put in the description box different resources that I have used to learn Korean. So it's all in the description box if you want to start your own journey of Korean. Okay, so tip number 6, money. Money. I'm not much of a spender. The main thing that I will spend things on is food and transport. Mainly. I'm not much of a buyer of things, although I bought some lovely things. Actually, I bought this jumper in Korea. There were things that I bought when I was over there, but they weren't like very, very extravagant. See, it's a weird, I still don't know how I feel about if Seoul is expensive or not. I found it was very, very easy to get by every day. Like feeding yourself can be super cheap because they have incredible street food that's so cheap. And then even on a bad day, you can get like instant ramen that tastes amazing. So I would tell myself like I would have street food and instant noodles for the majority of the day and have one main big meal of something that I want to try in Korea every day. By the end of the month, I knew enough people to tell me about cheap places that still did really good food and things like that, and you could get like a main with 4 sides for 5,000 or 6,000 won, which is like €4. That is what I miss the most, is the food. The food is amazing. But money-wise, like it's about what you spend your money on, obviously. I found it really easy to not spend my money over there if I was having a broke day. At one point I was actually able to give myself a budget of 60,000 won a day, which is like €55, 53, €55. And that was hard to reach because I was like, all I need is food and the subway is really cheap. So I think you're grand, but I've heard so. Maybe it's the apartments and the accommodation, because I've heard Seoul is expensive, but it didn't feel expensive to me. It reminded me of Dublin, but you can feed yourself way more in Seoul because they have just food everywhere. That's amazing. So I'm sorry if I'm really unclear about the money thing, because I basically, my experience where I just spent money on food and travel and maybe like a jumper and a bag, so cheap, in my opinion. And tip number 6, clubbing, nightlife and clubbing, which I don't know why I'm making this a tip, because I am so like not much of a clubbing person. I love going out, but I just don't go out that often because my poor little body can't handle it and my brain can't handle it. I just can't be doing that like every single night. So I'm not a party girl, but I went out twice. 3 times. I went out 3 times in the month. I know people are gonna be like, what? I went out only 3 times, and that was enough just to get kind of like a feeling of the whole scene. I got a little bit of a feel of it and I absolutely loved it. I loved it. Where did I go? So the first 2 clubs that I went to were both in Itaewon, and Itaewon is more where foreigners go, and I think it has an American military base there, so it's a lot more foreign people there. And when I went there, it felt like I was in America. It didn't feel like I was in Korea anymore. I didn't like Itaewon. I don't want to ever go back there after my 2 nights there, but that is just because I'm not interested in something that reminds me of America when I'm in Korea. And then my other night that I went out, it was in Hongdae, which it's a university area, and it's much, much younger. Even like before I went clubbing, there were people busking outside. Oh God, there were these 3 guys busking, dancing, and they looked like they were idol trainees. I don't know if they were trainees, but they looked amazing. They were doing BTS dance covers, and I was like, woo! So that was really, really cool, and it's such a nice area, and it's way more Korean, and that's what I'm there for, so that was really, really nice, just to kind of see the buzz and everything. I think I went to a club, I think it's called NB. I felt so tiny and Irish in this club. I was like, it's massive, and there were just throngs of people. I was able to find like places where there were less people, but I just kind of wanted to dive in to the masses and masses of Korean people just like bumping against each other. I would say massive negative in the clubbing scene is people can smoke indoors. It's technically illegal, but people do it anyway and it's not enforced. And I cannot describe to you the smell, especially by the end of the night when everyone's drunk and they're smoking everywhere. And it's disgusting. Like, that was a huge thing for me. I was like, I cannot believe this is allowed. And there's everyone just smoking everywhere in this club, this trapped club. And it took me, no joke, 3 separate showers to get rid of the smell out of my hair. The smell of smoke in my hair woke me up in the middle of the night when I got home because it was so bad. And their cigarettes are different to the cigarette smoke I'm used to in the West, and to me it smells way worse. It smells way more bitter and sharp. So it was not fun. If you're asthmatic, you are screwed, so be really, really careful, because there's no... Apparently there's some clubs where they have a smoking area, but the places that I went to didn't have a smoking area and everyone was just smoking everywhere. That wasn't the fun part. Otherwise, Korean people are really inquisitive and they're very curious as well, actually. Generally, all of them just want to know a little bit about you, which is really, really sweet. That's why it's so fun when you're just wandering around and everyone wants to have a chat with you and things like that. That's another thing I wanted to say about learning Korean. People speak English over there. They do speak English over there. Most of them have words that will help you if you're really, really stuck, but they are terrified to speak English to you. They are terrified. They clam up and they get so scared when they see you because they think they will have to speak English, and they have very little experience of orally speaking English. So that's another reason why they really soften and they're so happy even when you're trying to speak Korean, because it's like, oh thank God, I can like try and communicate like half English, half Korean. That's another reason. There's just a lot of fear around speaking English over there. Oh yeah, I had to pay kind of 15,000 won every time I went out. That was kind of seemed to be the basic fee to get into a club, was 15,000 won, which is like 15 euro. Maybe that's why I didn't spend any money, because I didn't go out a lot. Like, it seems like going out is quite expensive, but I just didn't go out a lot, so easy for me. But yeah, my experience was just really fun. I mean, I just like to have a bit of a dance, and that's what I like on a night out, and that's what you can get in any club. Like, they have great music and really kind of bubbly atmosphere everywhere, so it's just a lot of fun. I just had so much fun, so I recommend it. So this is getting long, so I am actually going to have to turn this into 2 vlogs. So I think we'll end it here, and I will come back with another video with my later tips. So it's going to go from what I've finished, and then we'll just keep going. We won't start at one again, we'll just continue. So thank you so much for watching this one, and I hope I come back with more information for you. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, you can subscribe, you can ring the little bell that gives you all the notifications, you can share it with your friends, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. Remember, you are who you choose to be, and she says bye.